Well, good evening, everybody. It's July the 25th, 2011, and I've been out for a few days visiting a friend in Phoenix. So I want to get back into it and talk tonight about sort of a follow-up to my last video. My last video was about what to do if you find yourself in a slump. And so I thought, better yet, I should talk about how to avoid getting into a slump. Sometimes it's not avoidable, but more often than not, I think it is. Looking back upon my 50 years of trumpet playing. So my main thoughts on this are, of course, some of the things that I've already talked about. That is making sure that you have a good point of reference. Another thing is, I think it's really important to have a good warm-up. That is like a pitcher, like any athlete, when they go into, before they go into the game, you can see them warming up in the bullpen. Same with a batter. You know, what we do is a form of athletics. So you have to find out what it is about the warm-up that works for you. Another important distinction is, in my opinion, people say, I remember I used to teach and I'd say, here's your warm-up. And they'd say the warm-up, geez, it takes me 30, 40 minutes to do my warm-up. And so I realized that the warm-up could be a misnomer. A warm-up actually could incorporate a workout. So I think it's really important to note that sometimes your warm-up could last 40, 45 minutes. But it's also like a workout. When you go to the gym, you spend your time stretching and warming up, and then you'll go work with the weights, etc. And before you know it, you've been there an hour, hour and a half, and hopefully you're feeling good. That's the way you should feel after you play the trumpet and after you practice. You shouldn't feel all beat necessarily after you've practiced. I think that's really important. You should feel good, right? If you practice correctly, you'll feel good. You won't feel like your chops are beaten down. I remember when I was younger, I'd practice for 10 minutes on high notes. My chops were beat. I thought, whoa, what a great practice, but that's not the way it works. So when you're working out or warming up, anyway, it's important to take your time, and when you're, like I said, when you're finished with your warm-up and your workout, you should be feeling, chops should feeling really good. Tired, but good. Some of the things that I do when I'm warming up, I've already talked about. I do lip bends. I do a couple of those. So that's one good thing. Do some lip bends, and gradually you can expand that into the upper register. Or what I like to do, especially if I haven't played for a while, is I'll do this. Then I'll go down by half steps, and then the next one I'll do would be this. And eventually that will take me into the pedal register. All of these exercises can be found in my book, Fundamentals for Brass. I'll put in a plug for my book. Again, there are so many wonderful books on the market that do similar things. I know Mike Sachs has a great book out there. Hickman has these amazing books. I just got his 100 lessons, I think, for the comeback player or something like that, and it's great. I use it with a lot of students. So there's tons of good material out there, and we're so fortunate to live in this day and age when you can have access to all this great material on the internet as well. So anyway, I've warmed up a little bit, then maybe I'll go to the stamp, or maybe I'll do this out of the stamp book. And then once I've done that for a while, maybe I'll do some Caruso 6 notes. do some Caruso seconds. It's possible I might also do some of Jim Thompson's Buzzing Basics. I really think that's a wonderful book too. And you can spend a little bit of time or a lot of time with that book and really help your chops out. So maybe I'll do some of the Buzzing Basics, maybe the Caruso 6 notes in the seconds. Then I'll start working my way back with the Jimmy stamp into the upper register. And one thing about the stamp, you notice, my sound wasn't very good until I started to get into the upper register. That's just the way I like to work the stamp, to make sure that my chops stay in place from the low note to the high note. So that's only on the stamp exercises. So you can play those with a good sound. I've also made up some exercises. And by the time you're warmed up, your chops start to feel pretty good. You can go into the upper register and not have to be in any pain. But it could take me 30, 40 minutes, maybe some days a lot more than that, maybe an hour and a half. And then I'll do Clark's too, of course, the Clark's as written. And if I want to work my chops, play them up an octave. And then maybe I'll buzz them. And sometimes I'll hold my mouthpiece, the Jimmy Stamp approved method. Or maybe the way Jim Thompson suggests. And maybe sometimes I'll just like to get a big sound. And I'll hold it like that, and this acts as an amplifier. So I guess the moral of this story is, take your time when you're warming up, give yourself plenty of time to warm up, and maybe that warm up will just flow smoothly into your workout. And so by the time you're finished practicing, you feel really great. Your chops feel good. Like I said, maybe you're tired, but you feel really good. So this is one way, I think, if you're really careful about how you warm up, you start with that point of reference and you work through all this flow. Everybody's different. What I do, what works for me, may not be necessarily what works for you at all. And that's another important thing. But I think it's just really important to have some sort of a sense of flow. Speaking of flow, the new flow studies, the Chickowicz studies are out on Balquarter. Those are wonderful as well. We're very fortunate to have all these great exercises. Now go out and practice and have a great time. And thanks for listening. And don't forget to keep blowing. And I'll get a big surprise for you on Tuesday. Or Wednesday. One of my students, a student of mine, is coming in. He's a great trumpet player by the name of Javier Gonzalez. And he's got some wonderful thoughts about how to play, especially in the upper register. So you can look forward to that. Take care. Thanks again for listening, and keep blowing. Bye-bye.